Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the most OP Way of the Drunken Master Monk build in Baldur's Gate 3. Let's just be honest, this is the weakest subclass that was added with patch 8 and contention for one of the weakest in the entire game. I've played around with it a lot to try and find any synergies or optimizations that could be made, and I actually found something that actually doesn't work that bad. And it does require you to have a couple team members to help out, but I'll go over that in a moment. Now, with the drunk condition is really what we're going to be utilizing, as that's the big component of this. Whenever a target is drunk, they have disadvantage on dexterity and charisma checks. So any spells that revolve around that, like Fireball, Lightning Bolt, are going to be nice, but also ice surfaces. And we can set up ice surfaces really easy, and there's actually some cool synergies, which we'll get into. So starting off here as the monk, this gives us our Flurry of Blows bonus action ability. And for ability scores, I think it's best to go high in dexterity, 14 constitution, 16 wisdom. This will give us armor class. However, the reason that we want to dump our strength is because if we want to make this the most OP, we do have to omit the strength and then use strength potions. If you don't want to do that, take the points out of dexterity, put them in strength. But this, if you want to make it strong, does have to use strength potions, unfortunately, or put the Club of Hill Giant Strength in your offhand, which is pretty easily done. So we roll with a stat spread of this, and we're going to take Tavern Brawler and a strength increase. So you can alternately put your constitution to 15 and use Tavern Brawler to boost it up to 16. The reason we're doing this is the strength potions just make this so much more powerful, and it needs everything that it gets. Level 2 gives us another key point, more movement speed, and the Step of the Wind, disengage, dash, and patient defense, which is nice to have. But level 3 is when we get to take our subclass here with the Way of the Drunken Master. Also, Sumer Dagnos 5e subclasses combined for the monk is really good too. I've done builds for all those there, but this here gives you proficiency in performance. Woo! It also gives you the ability to ignore the negative effects of being drunk, so you don't get disadvantage on dexterity and charisma checks. And whenever you drink alcohol, you regain half your key points rounded down. So that's also nice to recover some key points. And we get the Drunken Technique. So punch twice in quick succession and grant yourself an additional 3 meters of movement speed and disengage. So if you need to get away, this is the way to do it. It's really debatable if that's the best thing to do, because now we get level 4 abilities with the Life of the Party. Every time that you hit with Intoxicating Strike, the monk gains Life of the Party, which increases armor class and attack rolls against drunk targets. When we hit level 9, we can remove all of that. Don't fully recommend doing that, but we get the Intoxicating Strikes here, which do a 1d6 plus your strength modifier of bludgeoning damage and possibly gets them drunk. So whenever the targets are drunk, as mentioned, they'll get disadvantage on dexterity and charisma checks. So that can be pretty good, and I'll show you the optimization that we're going to use for this later on. Now at this point, the first thing you should always grab is Tavern Brawler, take up your constitution to 16, pop a strength potion, or use the club. You can get the club around this level. Strength potion can be easily obtained early game as well. Level 5 will also give us an extra attack and the stunning strikes for unarmed and melee, although unarmed is likely what we're going to be using for most of our attacks. Level 6 gives us our key empowered strikes, ignoring resistances. We also get leap to our feet. When you're prone, standing up only uses 1.5 meters of movement speed. That's an okay feature, but it's nice to have. And redirect attack. When a creature misses you with a melee attack, you can spend 1 key point as a reaction, use an unarmed strike back at them. So basically, like the riposte. You do have a better version of this from the Vest of Soul Rejuvenation, which is an Act 3 item, but from level 6 to like 9, when you make to level 3, this will be a decent option, although it does use up your key points. Level 7 gives us our evasion, so dexterity saving throws will now do no damage if you succeed and half if you fail, and stillness of mind, pretty nice as well. We can multiclass. There's a few multiclass I was thinking about, but I'm going to try and keep this as close together to the open hand monk as possible, so we'll take it up to level 9. Because the next feat that we got can be alert for the +5 to initiative, making sure that we go first. But if you want to increase your armor class, survivability, and initiative, dexterity is just going to be the way to go, so we're going to boost up that. Now, once we hit level 9, we get the Sobering Realization. So this can, you hit a drunk target, removing the drunk status, and you deal additional 2d8 plus wisdom modifier of psychic damage, which is okay, but the monk will lose the Life of the Party. So that bonus to armor class is gonzo. That's not always the greatest option. Advanced unarmed movement can make it so difficult terrain doesn't slow you down. That's cool and dandy, but level 10, I actually think it's best to add in the classic multiclass here with the Rogue Thief. Now, you don't have to go all the way in the monk. You can go to level 6 monk, and then take 4 levels of rogue and 2 levels of fighter for action surge. That's another way that you can go about doing this if you don't want the extra key points, which it kind of needs a few of them. The rogue gives us some bonus action abilities there that don't use your key points. But level 3 is where we can take the swashbuckler is okay, but the thief for that extra bonus action is really nice. This really is a big boost to this class, and it kind of needs everything that it can get. Now, as far as gear goes, it's an interesting one because we benefit a lot from making anything that forces a dexterity save. So the snow-dusted monastery gloves here, which deal additional 1d4 of cold damage, not the absolute best. Obviously, the gloves of soul catching with that 1d10 force is way better than a 1d4. However, with this and the Snowburst ring, you can create ice surfaces whenever you make a melee attack. So that becomes really good, because then we can just go ahead with a punch here, and it's going to create an ice surface, which will make enemies end up slipping and falling on it like that, which is extremely useful, because when you use the intoxicating strike, this will also create that ice surface where they'll slip on it. This makes our class much more powerful. The Scabby Pugilist Circlet will give us additional damage when surrounded by 2 or more foes. I like the Mask of Soul Perception, but we don't need any benefits to the attack rolls. So Horns the Berserker can add a little extra damage onto our attacks, which is nice. Scabby Pugilist whenever surrounded, which you likely end up will be. Haste Helm will give you momentum when battle starts, which gives you extra movement speed. So that can be some other good options there. Also, the Cloak Protection is good for that extra armor class, because we do need a bit of extra armor class here. The Vest of Soul Rejuvenation, whenever you succeed on a saving throw, you get 1 to 4 health. And you can make the Greater Kashigo counter, which makes it so that you don't burn that key point with the redirect attack from the the Drunken Master Monk's level 6 ability. You get it for free, plus 2 to armor class as well, and keeps you in clothing. Snow Dusted Monastery Gloves, as mentioned, also gives you Ice Knife, which is okay. Wouldn't fully recommend doing Ice Knife often, but if you got nothing else that you could possibly do, it's an option. And the Disintegrating Nightwalkers you can't slip on ice. This is the big thing here, so utilize this or any other options that don't make it so you slip on ice, like the if you got the Helldust Boots, those are pretty okay, but the Disintegrating Nightwalkers are kind of essential here, because we're getting up close and creating those ice surfaces ourselves. We also have Snowburst Ring and the Ring of Protection, and the Hell Rider Longbow for that +3 to initiative so that we go first. I got the Emulate Greater Health, but we have 16 Constitution without it, so that's still pretty good too. Now, what I mentioned about benefiting us is if you have a Cleric, the Planar Ally, and in particular the Genie, which is my preference, the Genie is our best friend because it has a special ability that can help us out quite a bit. So it's got the Drunken Inhale, compel forward swore you with an intoxicating wind that makes them drunk. This is a pretty large action area, and you can continually keep spamming this every turn with your Genie. So that can be really good for just setting up the drunk alongside yourself, so that we have pretty much everyone on the battlefield drunk and slipping on ice. And we also benefit from someone like a wizard here with things like anything that's going to be a dexterity save, like the Fireball spell, the Lightning Bolt spell, Sacred Flame, things like that. So yeah, this makes the Drunken technique a little bit better too, because we can disengage, create an ice surface, run away from them, then they may end up slipping on the ice. So yeah, the 2 bonus actions actually make it a lot better, but as I mentioned, you can add in that second level of fighter too if you want Action Surge instead of getting the Sobering Realization, which is really, in all essence, not that good. Now, the animations for this class are great. You literally do look like a Drunken Master. And this build is pretty much the Canadian build, because you get drunk and slip on the ice. And that's one of the two top things that Canadians end up doing. So with this, we want to go around spreading our Icy Doom. So we're first going to go ahead here. This will proc an opportunity attack. So we can use our Drunken technique first here on this so that we can run away from them afterwards. So we can go ahead with our attack. Boom. We're not going to roll the crit. End up taking them out. We made a nice surface here. That's exactly what we want to do. So we can end up just running away from here, because they'll have to move through this ice in order to hit us. They might even jump, because they sometimes do that. But we're going to go chase down somebody else here and go with another attack. We can just use our regular old punch too, because this will create a nice surface as well. So boom, we're going to use a crit off on them. They only did 26 damage. Not crazy. But we're able to run away from them and then go and punch somebody else. So this is all about... Oh, we took somebody out there. This is all about setting up our difficult terrain, because that's really the biggest benefit that we have here. You can use the Drunken technique too. We do have a good amount of key points, so on targets that we want to apply that drunk to, smash that ball over the head. They saved on it. That was not ideal. We'll go ahead with another one here, Intoxicating Strike. We'll hopefully get this one off, and boom, that took them out. So we created a nice surface there. That's what we wanted. We also got Deflect Missiles, which is kind of nice. Use and then we can redirect it, catch a projectile from a range attack, and shoot it back at your attacker. So boom, we catch that arrow and toss it right back at them. It counts as an unarmed attack when you throw, so it actually applies the cold damage onto it, so that created a nice surface there. Now, another thing is our Genie has the Drunken Inhale here, so if you line this up correctly, you can hit sometimes three targets with it. We can only get 2, but this will give them disadvantage. Yeah, we got them both drunk. Perfect. This is exactly what we want. So now if they go to move, they may end up slipping on the ice. So that's kind of what yep, there's 1 target fell on the ice. This makes it a little bit better. Yes, you could do this on a open hand monk, but the drunk ability does benefit this one quite a bit, because then they get disadvantage on the dexterity check. And another turn for our drunken friend here. So we're going to just use Intoxicating Strike, I guess, which will again create those ice surfaces. Boom. They saved on the ice. We're immune to prone. That's fine, but they're now drunk. So that's exactly what we want. We did proc that opportunity attack, which is fine because we get that boosted armor class from the life of the party. this gave us a +1 armor class, +3 to attack rolls against drunken targets. That's great. We'll then try to apply that again to this target here. Bonk, made them drunk. So then we get our bonus unarmed attack as well, which doesn't use a key point, or we can use key points, which again can recover. Sobering realization, as mentioned, is not always a good option to use because the cost to benefit ratio is pretty high. So we're just going to go with punch there. That was enough to take that target out. We'll leave this one alone. They're likely slipping on the ice. And if you want to further enhance it, because I can't actually run down there, arrows of ice work well on this build too, because this will further create ice surfaces. So you can go ahead with firing there. Creates another ice surface, even though we missed. That's still fine. And then we have 2 bonus action abilities. So I can't actually run up there on those targets. Maybe, oh, we have someone here that slipped on ice I forgot about. So then we got our Drunken technique here. And this Drunken technique actually ends up doing quite a bit of damage here. So we also just, this is the Flurry of Blows ability. So on targets with higher health, use that against them. That was enough to take out that target. Perfect. This thing can't get drunk, but we're still going to use Intoxicating Strike just for the fun of it. Bonk. And that created a big explosion. Hey, actually, it did get drunk. So you can Drunken apply to Celestials and Elementals. That target there is drunk, but they saved on the ice, unfortunately. And again, deflect missiles, redirect is so awesome because we can then further create ice surfaces. I threw it at that target there, but whenever you do that returning attack, since a unarmed attack counts as a thrown attack counts as an unarmed strike, we do get that cold damage applied to it. Again, we're going to use our Drunken Inhale there to further spread our drunkenness. And it's icy heck for everyone there. So yeah, they ran and jumped onto the ice. Enemy AI will oftentimes jump on the ice, but sometimes if they move a little bit, they'll end up slipping and falling. So that can be nice too. And another turn for us. Everyone around the battlefield is drunk, so that's exactly what we want. I guess I'll show the Sobering Realization off on this target. So boom, that was enough to take them out. But it removes our life of the party, which is something we want for the bonuses to our attack rolls and armor class. So yeah, you can go around to reapply that. The immunity to prone is huge on this because it's really a big component of this class, creating these difficult terrain. That was another punch that finished them off, so that's exactly what we wanted. And the 2 targets we need are hiding out there. So yeah, it's the unfortunate thing is sometimes positioning is one of the biggest downsides of melee classes. But having arrows of ice is also really good because this will further make it so that they probably slip on ice. And we'll just go with that there. Another ice surface. Boom. Perfect. We want it. The Genie also has a nice ability to use Thunder Wave, which is unfortunately a Constitution save. Otherwise, if it was a Dexterity save, this would have been really great because you can use this to push enemies off of the walls and kind of mess them up. So I like to get this in a position where you can hit multiple targets. So we're going to use this. The Genie is also immune to the prone, and we can't hit that target there, unfortunately, but we can move this one to a better position for us and fail counterspell and Genie. That's fine. We knocked it back to us there, which is what we wanted. And since we got this person in our face, we may as well punch their face and get it out of here. So boom, that's all it took. And then we're going to go after these fine folk over here. The Genie also has a teleport, so you can move it actually quite a large area of effect. We'll follow this up with just another punch here. Probably create an ice surface for all 3 of them. That's exactly what we wanted here. And we are out of key points, which is actually pretty unfortunate. So our only bonus action strike is the unarmed strike there. Just be mindful you do go through key points pretty quickly. So that's something to keep in mind that, yeah, you just got to watch out for that. But the 2 bonus actions are nice because you can utilize this as an off, basically do an attack, then do your bonus action one, do an attack, do your bonus action one. So that ends up not being too much of a problem if you run out of key points. Obviously not ideal, but you can also use alcohol to be able to give yourself that extra one back, or half your key points back. And we got our Genie here, so they're on an ice surface. We want to get them drunk so that they end up potentially missing that. So the nice thing is you can always use this and sometimes miss your teammate. We apply drunk on there, perfect. This target is dashing, and sometimes it messes up their AI like you saw there. And they saved on the ice, which is fine. They missed, so we now have a greater Kashigo counter. And that's why I like this armor, because it doesn't use your key points. And that was enough to finish them off and give us a little extra ice or cold damage. So perfect. We have 2 targets left here, so let's go at them. Arrows sometimes are going to be your best friend if you have no other way of attacking, because, yeah. You can also apply cold to your bow using the Drake Throat Glaive if you don't want to use cold or ice arrows here. As the Drake Throat Glaive can elementally infuse a weapon, and if you put the cold damage on it, it's going to create a cold surface every time you use an arrow, which is really nice, so that can be a good option as well. And then Arrow of Many Targets with that buff will apply the cold to multiple targets at a time, which can be also pretty crazy too. You do sometimes have to use arrows. It's not ideal, but it's the way it is. Again, Drake Throat Glaive, it's a blue rarity weapon. You pull it out, it has the elemental weapon here, Draconic Elemental Weapon. Apply the cold one to your character. Make sure you have your bow pulled out too. And then now our bow does that cold damage, which will apply the ice surfaces. And with an Arrow of Many Targets, you'll get yourself multiple cold surfaces. This is a pretty okay build overall. This is the most OP that you could probably make it. The ice surfaces are really nice here, and giving the enemies disadvantage on their saving throw to resist slipping on ice is pretty useful. That's kind of the best way that we can utilize this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and we'll see you all in the next video.